Okay, I can start with the prayers. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpaturubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी।
Okay. Did someone want to start the reading today?
Ruchimataji, would you like to read?
Maybe later. My head is not feeling too well.
Okay. Did someone want to start the reading today?
Okay, I can read, Prabhu.
Okay.
I can read the next verse. You can read.
Ruchimataji, would you like to read? Text 24 and 25, Canto 4, Chapter 19. Evam indre harati ashvam vainya yagya jigham shaya tad grihita vishristeshu pakhandeshu mate nirnam dharma iti upadharmeshu na nagna rakta patadishu prayena sajjata Brantya Peshaleshu Chavagmishu. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. In this way, King Indra, in order to steal the horse from King Prithu's sacrifice, adapted several orders of sannyas. Some sannyasis go naked and sometimes they wear red garments and pass under the name of Kapalika. These are simply symbolic representations of their sinful activities. These so-called sannyasis are very much appreciated by sinful men because they are all godless atheists and very expert in putting forward arguments and reasons to support their cause. We must know, however, that they are only passing as adherents of religion and are not so in fact. Unfortunately, bewildered persons accept them as religious and being attached to them, they spoil their life. Purport. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, men in this age of Kali are short-lived, devoid of spiritual knowledge and susceptible to accept false religious systems due to their unfortunate condition. They always remain mentally disturbed. The Vedic Shastras practically prohibit adoption of sannyas in the age of Kali because less intelligent men may accept the sannyas order for cheating purposes. Actually, the only religion is the religion of surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We must serve the Lord in Krishna consciousness. All other systems of sannyas and religion are actually not bona fide. In this age, they're simply passing the religious systems. This is most regrettable. So this is continuation of the purports that we read yesterday. And Srimad Bhagavatam is describing that there are different types of sannyasis, or there are different types of pseudo sannyasis who pose themselves as religious, and uh, they are appreciated by certain kinds of people. So here, King Indra, in order to steal the horse from King Prithu's sacrifice, he changed his clothes, the clothes of the sannyasi, and he stole the horse. So actually, that is cheating, because he was not a sannyasi, but he posed as a sannyasi. And here in this purport, like, there is more description of different types of people who pose themselves as sannyasis. They sometimes, like, go naked, or sometimes they're wearing red garments, and then such people are called as kapalika. And it's unfortunate, as it is described in Sri Ishopanishad, that sometimes when people pretend to be religious or godly, but actually they are not. So in Ishopanishad, the comparison is given to a jeweled cobra. A cobra is a very dangerous snake, but if somebody sees a cobra, then usually they try to escape and be more alert. But sometimes there is a special kind of cobra which has a jewel on its head. So people try to think that, oh, there is a jewel, and they try to reach, and then they get swallowed by the cobra. So when people pose as religious people and perform sinful activities under the garb of religion, that is more dangerous than people who call themselves as atheists. Unfortunately, in Kali Yuga, such people who call themselves as sannyasis but are not actually religious, they'll be accepted by a godless class of atheistic men. Yeah, like, all their sinful propensities will be accepted by, and they'll have followers who will adhere to such pseudo leaders. So this is actually more disturbance to the society than just plainly accepting that, I don't accept God. That is better than all these people who are posing to be religious but they're not actually religious. So that's what I got from the purport. If anybody would like to add, like, please do so.
I can't see the screen. Okay, yeah, now I can see it. Thank you.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting how Prabhupada says that men are short-lived, devoid of spiritual knowledge, and susceptible to accept false religious systems in the age of Kali, and thus they always remain mentally disturbed. And you can see that going on, people that don't follow proper religious systems. You can just tell that they're not happy, they're mentally disturbed, they're not really truly happy. But when you see devotees who are taking part in the Lord's Sankirtan movement, they're actually happy. You can see they're actually happy. They're not mentally disturbed so as much, And I just thought that was interesting that this mentally disturbed condition is a symptom of them accepting a false religious system. I mean, along with the other things, they're devoid of spiritual knowledge and yeah, the Kali Yuga. Okay. Will we move on to the next verse?
Yeah, I can read the next one.
Okay.
Thanks. Tad abhigyana bhagavan prithu prithu parakrama indriya kupito banam adato dyata karamkaha. Translation. Maharaj Prithu was celebrated as very powerful, immediately took up his bow and arrows and prepared to kill Indra himself, because Indra had introduced such irregular sannyas orders. Purport. It is the duty of the king not to tolerate the introduction of any irreligious systems. Since King Prithu was an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, certainly his duty was to cut down all kind of irreligious systems. Following in his footsteps, all heads of state should themselves be bona fide representatives of God and should cut down all irreligious systems. Unfortunately, there are cowards who declare a secular state. Such a mentality is a way of compromising religious and irreligious systems. But because of this, citizens are generally becoming uninterested in spiritual advancement. Thus, the situation deteriorates to such an extent that human society becomes hellish. So I'm not very clear about what Indra had introduced the irregular sannyas order, but what I gather from this is that in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that repression will not accomplish anything. Whatever is the prakriti of a person, or whatever is the natural nature of a person, he will do according to that. He will perform actions according to that, and repression will not accomplish anything. We can only subdue our senses for so long, but after some time, the senses will revolt, and the inner nature of the person will take over, and we're not able to subdue our inner nature until and unless like we change our inner nature by the mercy of God. And therefore, I think when they say that, what I gather is sannyas orders. So sannyas means that basically we are telling excuse me. So we are telling a person that without testing him, if the person is really serious about it, that is why in ISKCON they first see and test a person for a long time whether he is capable of giving up his or her natural affinity for sense gratification, or for the vicissitudes of sannyas, or the test of sannyas and the hardships of sannyas, which it'll bring to a person, because it requires a lot of discipline, it requires a lot of mental control, it requires giving up a lot of things, not for one day but for the entire life. And it is easy to subdue your one's senses for one day or 2 days or a month or 2 months or 2 years, but not beyond that. Beyond that, the senses will start revolting until and unless a person has practice of many lifetimes. Then it is not possible for the person to take any person to take that route. and it is just torturing himself and his senses, because he also says that when we subdue our senses beyond its capacity, then we are also hurting the super soul within us. So here in ISKCON, the system is very scientific. And the Prabhupada said that if you want to get married, then he allows people to get married and still be regulated in their marriage, and have uh, have whatever uh, association just for producing a Krishna conscious child. But we have a system of following the regulative principles, which also purify the person, and then once the person is purified, then they can think about God uh, in the correct way. Because like we see many times when newcomers come, and they always think about Krishna and Radha Leela to be of a very shallow nature, because they do not understand the depth and the uh, deep spiritual significance of the Leela or of their bonding, and they just see it from outside as a physical relationship. So that is why it is not. That is why he says that first we have to like follow the regulative principles, and we have to um, chant around so that we are able to get deeper into what it actually is. And when Krishna reveals um, his his potencies and deeper meanings, then only we are able to understand him. He says we are not able to approach him without his grant. We cannot understand him. It is not possible. So we are not able to understand God without his grant and without. So following in his footsteps should themselves and should cut down on religious systems. So he is saying that um, all heads of state, because in our Indian Vedic systems, it is said that whoever is the authority or the king or the head of the state is actually a representative of the supreme personality of Godhead, and Lord Vishnu personally enables that person, uh, and nothing happens by chance. That a person is the head of the country or of a place. So it is Lord Vishnu empowers him. So then here it is said that since they are the representatives of God, they should cut down on all irreligious systems. But there are cowards who declare a secular state. Because nobody, according to me, I'll keep it short, but according to me, nobody can really understand what true religion is. It is like I was discussing once with Leela Manjari, that any religion which is based on the four pillars, that is mercy, truthfulness, austerity, and charity, is an authentic religion. And we should not say this religion because everybody thinks their religion is perfect and the other person's religion is not true. But he clearly states that any religion which teaches these four principles, to advance on these four principles, is a valid religion, because we are approaching God. What actually is God is love, God is truth, God is uh, God is giving oneself away, which is tyaga, renunciation. Yes, so the 8 qualities of God, as we hear in some scriptures, are like He is perfectly renounced, perfectly He have all the ability. That means He is perfectly His immense, His strength is immense, boundless. He is perfectly renounced. He is perfectly in ISKCON, in Krishna, we say that He is perfectly He has a lot Lakshmi. That means he is he has all the wealth, and still he has perfect renunciation, perfect all the strength, and so whatever the criteria is, like the 4 or 5, 6 criteria that he has to be, in spite of being having all the strength, he is completely renounced. We say that he is an incarnation of God. And so we should not belittle other religions, like it is written that, because people are fighting in the name of religion, but it's actually every religion is true. We just have to pick up uh, what we are inclined to, which religion we are inclined to, which we find is the true religion, and follow that. And any religion, we have to become disciplined. It does not matter which religion we take to, we have to become disciplined in that. There's no religion no spiritual advancement which can be got without undergoing discipline, or tyag, which is like a sacrifice, or without austerity, or without mercy, truthfulness, and charity. So yeah, charity is also giving away of whatever a person holds dear. It's, or like, if I have only one plate of food in the whole day and somebody comes asking for it, then one should be at a point where we can give that one plate of food, because he needs it more than us, and that is true charity. So it is very subtle. So even if a person is atheist, but if he is following these principles, basic principles, then we can say he is religious. So I mean, that's just my view. So otherwise the human society will become hellish, where we just fight for principles, but we don't want to live up to the principles, but we just want to fight for principles. So that is where we go wrong. So that is my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, I was going to say that Prabhupada talks about a secular state, which means a state that remains neutral towards religious organizations or people that declare themselves religious, and that mentality is compromising a religious and irreligious systems. And that's because when there's a secular state, it means that anyone can just make up anything and call it a religion, even if they're following certain things like they're charitable, etc. It doesn't actually mean that it's a religion. It just means that they're performing certain activities that people like for the be part of religion, but it's not. It doesn't. Religion is not defined by charity. I mean, a brahmana is charitable also, but the reason why King Indra was being uh, put upon by Maharaj Prithu is because he introduced this irregular sannyas order by dressing as a sannyasi and imitating a religious person. And his motivation, though, was to spoil the jagya of King Prithu. So that's why Prabhupada mentions here that the head of state, and as you mentioned also, that the head of state should represent the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's his duty to make sure that irreligion does not infiltrate into society. I can think of many so-called religions that are registered as religions, but they're not at all religious. It's just they call themselves that. They invent some sort of teachings. You know, for instance, Scientology invented a whole lot of teachings and just called themselves a religion, but they don't actually follow any religious process. It's just all popular psychology. It's a pop psychology sort of organization who makes a lot of money. Yeah, so it's interesting that he said that this mentality compromises religious systems because there's no definition, there's no sort of line drawn between a proper religious system and an irreligious system. Everything is allowed. So when everything is allowed, people just get misled, and they, as he mentioned in the previous verse, they become mentally disturbed because they're not following a proper religious system. It's a concocted system. So then people lose interest, as is mentioned here, in spiritual advancement because they can see that just anything goes, basically. Anything, and if anyone who calls themselves a religion is accepted by the secular state and protected by them with tax and all that sort of, they don't have to pay taxes, etc. They get special privileges. So, and then people see that they're a cheating religion, so called, and then they just lose interest in spiritual advancement because they can see all this cheating going on. And then, as Prabhupada says, then the situation deteriorates and the whole human society becomes hellish because people just lose interest in spiritual life. You know, the Catholic Church is one example where the priests were given pornography and allowed to drink alcohol. You know, that sort of thing. They're allowed to smoke cigarettes, for instance. I remember when I was young and I was taking an interest just before I became a devotee. I took an interest in Catholicism because my brother's a Catholic, and the priest gave a very nice sermon. He was talking some very nice words, and then after we walked out, we saw him smoking a cigarette, and I didn't know anything about anything, but I knew that wasn't right. You know, that someone who's religious should not be doing the same things as ordinary people are doing. Yeah, anyway, that's my thoughts on that. If anyone else wants to say something.
I just wanted to add a very nice thing that you said, that that in here, I believe Catholicism is a very great religion. It actually teaches a lot of concepts, and what little Bible I've read, I feel that it is very true because it tells us how to live life on an everyday basis, but and what are the principles we should live by. But another thing that I just wanted to add is what Prabhupada, like in this verse which came up, was that because there is forced sannyas for the priests, but Prabhupada allowed it, that if your nature does not permit you to take renunciation, then you should not. You are allowed to get married, and like their boundaries of like only for procreating children. But then um, but then if it is forced on priests, then it goes against their um, natural nature, and that is why we see all these like cases of so much of child all this and happening everywhere, because they are not allowed to take it positively like it is done in ISKCON, like in spite of being like priests are allowed to be married, and but even in Buddhism, of course, they say that the highest measure of a person being advanced in spiritual life is when they totally give up uh, all forms of sense gratification, not just the human interaction, but other forms of um, mm, sense gratification also is the measure of spiritual advancement of a person. That is very true, but it cannot be forced, and that's why Prabhupada understood that, and that's why I think it's there in ISKCON. So just wanted to tell that point, that was not, that's not there in Catholicism. If you have to be a priest, you have to be celibate, and yeah, that's my understanding. I'm not sure if it is true.
Okay. I actually have to go in 5 minutes' time. I have a Skype call. But if somebody wants to read the next verse, or I can maybe, if it's a quick one, I can read it. Yeah, it's pretty quick. So I can just read this, and if you wanted to continue, someone could talk about this if they wanted to. So we're up to verse 27. Tamritvija sakravada bisanditam vikachasya duspriksham asayaram hasan nivarayam asuraho mahamate nayujayate tranya vada prachoditat. Translation: When the priests and all the others saw Maharaj Prithu very angry and prepared to kill Indra, they requested him, "O great soul, do not kill him, for only sacrificial animals can be killed in a sacrifice. Such are the directions given by the Shastra." Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada. Animal killing is intended for different purposes. It tests the proper pronunciation of Vedic mantras, and an animal being put into the sacrificial fire should come out with a new life. No one should ever be killed in a sacrifice meant for the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu. How then could Indra be killed when he is actually worshipped in the Jagya and accepted as part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Therefore, the priests requested King Prithu not to kill him. I can just quickly say something here. Yeah, so as we've just read before, the Vedic mantras need to be pronounced properly, and I think I mentioned before there's actually a referee who makes sure that if something's mispronounced, he actually intervenes and pronounces it correctly, so that all the mantras are pronounced correctly, and then they sacrifice an animal to test to see, and if it comes out with a new life, then they know that everything's been done properly. And of course, this is all meant for the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu. It's not that we're just performing some mundane ritualistic activities, just a jagya for material benefits. We're actually doing this to satisfy Lord Vishnu. And of course, the fire jagya is the mouth of Lord Vishnu, and we're throwing, that's why we throw the grains in. And so the priests were saying to King Prithu, that we can't kill him, because no one should be killed in a sacrifice, and that we just have to follow the direction of the Shastras and leave him be. So that's all I can think of to say about that. If someone else wants to say something.
Yeah, just that is animal killing then justified for sacrifice just for testing? How is that justified?
Yeah, well, they don't sacrifice the animals unless they know that the Vedic mantras have been pronounced properly. And what they're actually doing is they're giving the animal a new life, knowing that they'll get the new life. And at the same time, there's a parallel that it's proof that the sacrifice has been done properly, that the mantras are being pronounced properly. It's not that they sort of just do what they want to do and then they sacrifice an animal and just hope for the best. They know that the animal will get a new life because they know they've done the proper pronunciation. But at the same time, it's a test. All
Okay.
right, I need to go myself, but if you want to continue here, I can. Yeah, I need to go.
Maybe we can all pause here. We read a few verses and is that okay, Ruchi Mataji, for you also? Thank you so much, Rasarasika Prabhu.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's fine.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna.